Hey, I am Mustafa Sherif. Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast number 100. By this episode, we finish the season number 1 of Urbanistica Podcast. It's not over. I'm going to continue with the season number 2 during the summer as well. I'm so glad. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you listened to all the 99 previous episodes. If you didn't, so please do that. Share it with friends, with your colleagues. And yeah, send me your reflections. You can comment on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you feel that is the platform that you would like to express yourself. And I'm super happy about this because this was my dream for 5 months ago, not to produce the 100 episode, but just to start this podcast, to produce it, try to inspire people. And I saw the effect, the impact of this podcast. So far, now, today is the 3rd of July, 2020, according to the statistic that I'm reading from the screen now. So 81 countries listening to this podcast, and the total amount of listeners, or the total number of listeners, is 11,500 people. Thank you so much. The numbers are crazy. I'm very happy. In this episode, I am thinking to go through the stories behind the scene, the process of producing the episode. So you might be interested in hearing that because there is a lot of drama behind the scenes you cannot imagine. I will start with how I find my guest. There are two different part of this story. How do I choose the guest? The thing that I'm choosing a story and then I look for a guest, or there is a guest with a great story, so I contact him or her or anybody. So many times it starts with I'm scrolling down in LinkedIn, talking with my network, and I see there is a very interesting topic that people are interested and people are talking about. So I decide to record an episode related to this topic. And I prepare the questions, and then I look for a guest who can talk and inspire us with a great story. And sometimes there are people with good stories, and the story shouldn't be related really to what's happening now, but in general, they're really great story that can inspire us and can take us one step further to plan and design cities for people, smart cities, livable cities. And I find my guests many times from LinkedIn. I'm super active there, and sometimes on Instagram. Many people writing me and asking, "What do you think about this topic? Would you like to record an episode?" And in the majority of times that when people contact me, I see the topic is very, very interesting, and we go directly to book a date and record. So thank you so much again for reaching out, because I have a limited amount of time and I have a full-time job, so sometimes I don't really catch stories. And by the way, in the podcast, it's only me who's working from A to Z, from the communication to reaching out to do the questions, recording, editing, publishing. So it's produced by Mustafa Sherif. And the thing is, I'm enjoying it so much so far. I mean, all the step of the process. But hopefully in the future, I will find someone can help me with the different stuff, at least with the communication, reaching out to the guest. Because when it comes to the editing, it's a bit difficult, because the person who is going to edit this should know about the topic and what is relevant and so on. So I cannot really give it to someone in a communication production company and ask him to edit. No, it's going to be super difficult because the topic is very, I don't know if I should call it sensitive, but it's not easy that anyone can edit it. There should be edited by someone who have knowledge in this field. So it's a bit annoying that I not really can hand it to someone and tell, okay, fix it. But in the same time, I'm really enjoying it because it's so much inspiring. And when I hear the talk when we record it directly, But also when I edit it, I hear it more, like I listen more to it and learn many stuff. Some stuff I might miss during the conversation, but then when I listen and edit it, I'm learning and writing down the notes that I am going to use in my work, but also in writing the description for the episode. Let's go for the different steps in the Urbanistica Podcast episode production. First, I find a good story, then I find the guest, and I reach out to the guest. Usually I do it by LinkedIn because it's very fast, and I just record a voice message. Many people don't listen to the voice message because they didn't know that in LinkedIn you can send a voice message. So in many times people just like, I send them a voice message, and then after many days I write them a text. So did you listen to the voice message? They'd be like, what? Which voice message? Okay, sorry, I didn't know that this was a voice message. Someone might ask me why you send a voice message, why not writing a text? I believe with a voice message it's much more, it's faster for me, because writing a text it takes a lot of time and I need to specify things. I believe with a voice message is easier for me, saving a lot of time, and also it's a good kickoff with a guest, like the guest hearing my voice. Okay, this is really good. We are in the mood of recording a podcast. So this is also something psychological that I use with my guests. Hopefully it's something positive. And the response that I got from the guests, they were very surprised, very happy, very cool. They think this is very creative, that's sending a voice message in LinkedIn. So anyway, I send a voice message in LinkedIn and I ask, hey, would you like to record an episode about this topic? I saw you're very interested. You're talking a lot about this. So would you like to record? Let's say in the beginning it was like, this podcast is just 1 month old. I just started it, and now I'm telling, okay, this podcast is 5 months old. I have so many listeners. People be like, oh, wow, of course I will be part of this. In the beginning, there were many people supporting it, actually, when I had just like 3 episodes. So I'm really thankful for the people that believed in the podcast, and I'm thankful for the people that are listening to the podcast from absolutely the first episode. So I contact the person and sending the voice message. I got the okay from my guest. Then I ask my guest to send me a picture so I can put it as a cover. And in many times I get super funny pictures, but it's so funny. People, I ask them to send me the coolest picture ever they have, and then they hand me a picture, and it's so cool because they feel so much proud. Okay, this is my coolest picture ever. And you can see from the episode, if you scroll down, previous 99 episode, there are many cool and interesting pictures of the guests. So I get the picture and I ask them for the email so I can book the date and send them the invitation to their email. Because in the beginning, when I was recording, like the first 10 episodes, I was, we agreed about a date to record. And then when it was the day to record, 5 minutes, the guest is not there. 10 minutes after the date or the recording time, the guest is not there. Then I phone call the guest and be like, sorry, I just forgot. Excuse me, can we reschedule it? So I learned something, that I should book the guest and send them the invitation to their calendar with the date, with the rules, with everything they need so they can be at the place. And then it was easier with the during the COVID-19. It's easier because people are used to look at their calendars, and I'm sending the booking in Microsoft Teams, so things went very soft and very good. So I agree about the date, send the invitation, and then start to prepare the questions. The questions, as you notice in the previous episode, there are like 3 different sections in the episode. The first section is the the standard section. When I say, hello, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. I'm excited about this episode. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much. How do you feel? You're our storyteller, your passion. So this kind of introduction that I have in the first section. And many people ask me, why you don't have music in the beginning. And for me, okay, why not? Why not having a music? All the other podcasts, or the majority of the podcasts I'm listening to and you are listening to, have a music. But not having a music is also a kind of podcast. I want to raise a discussion. Okay, why we have a music, why we don't have? What is the different? What is the best? So it's also a kind of, how to say, to show that there's other way of doing the podcast. I don't have a music in the beginning because first I didn't had the time to make a music, and because of the copyright thing, I needed to deal a lot with different copyright regulations. So I wanted a specific music to be on my podcast, and I was not allowed to do that, and I needed to pay. And because of this podcast, I'm not making money off, so it will be hard. So I decided that okay, leave it without music, and it's good. It's saving my time, it's saving the listener time. You just want to you just go in, you listen, and that's it. I don't have any advertisement. Many companies asked me to put advertisement like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, with the music and so on. But I'm not really into this to have an advertisement in the podcast. This is how I experience other podcasts. When I'm listening, I'm really into the story. I'm inspired by the guest. I'm in the flow, and suddenly, oh, drink this kind of drink. It's really good for your health. Then, everything is destroyed. I lose my flow. I lose the inspiration. Many podcasts, I needed to, to move it like 10 or 15 seconds to get back to the story. So in my case, or what I believe in, I would love to have the good flow of the story without any interruption of any advertisement. Even the advertisement will bring money to the podcast. But I believe that the flow is much more important than having the advertisement. But back to the questions, I have the first section. It's the introduction. And usually I don't introduce my guest. Well, this is Alex, or this is Emma, and she is the CEO. Sometimes I do it, but in the majority of the episode, I don't do it because I don't want to put people in the boxes. I want them to express themselves. And as you notice also, or this is what we usually hear on the other podcasts, that people is being introduced, not only podcasts, in the events, everywhere, on TV shows, radio. Oh, welcome the CEO of X company, and he did this, did this. I know it's really good, and it's a big credit for the guest, but in my case, I would love to leave the space, the platform to the guest to introduce themselves. Basically, I don't want to put the guest in a box. I just leave it. Maybe they don't like to be introduced as the champion of something, or the writer of this article, or the author of this book. I don't know. So it's cool to leave the stage to them, to give them the mic and see how they introduce themselves. And many times it's so interesting and so cool way of introducing themselves. I really like this. I really like to see the magic in their eyes when they talk about themselves, when they introduce themselves. And usually the way they introduce themselves not matching at all with the title they have on LinkedIn, or what they usually known for, which means that it's really cool that they got the space to introduce themselves. They are not doing the same thing that other people do. They are not introducing themselves as usual. And I find it really fascinating, and I really like it. So this was the first section. The second section is the core of the story. Sometimes it's related to cities for children, AI, many other things, cities for women, arts and culture. The first section was about introducing the guest. The second part is the core of the story. And the third part, the last part, is more about a smart city. What is a smart city? And the 3 takeaway messages with the 3 hashtags. It's more to end up the story in a beautiful way. And I know sometimes it's difficult to get an answer, or a completely full answer about what is a smart city. It's a really big question. But I'm thinking this is a kind of kick-off for the next conversation, because some people, I would love to talk with them about, let's say, art and culture. But also I love to talk with them about smart city, like a full episode about smart city. The previous episode was just a kickoff to the next coming episode about smart city. And by the way, I send all the questions 1 week before to the guests so they can prepare. And it's better for the audience, for me, for the guests, in case when they get the question, when they prepare. So it will be a good storytelling. In some few cases, the guest was not really prepared. And that's why sometimes you can hear from the guest, I think, well, because they're trying to formulate, they're trying to create an idea. So I recommend the guests always look at this, look at the questions, try to prepare an answer, so it will be a good flow when we record. And I don't need to do this so much editing, because by the way, what you hear now, it's nothing compared to what is being recorded. Not all of the guests, but some of the guests, I need to really spend a lot of time cutting the, can we redo this part? Could you please delete this and I will re-answer? This is what I really don't like about doing the podcast, is that when the guest is not prepared, and when I ask the question, so I get an answer, but after like a few seconds, no, please, can we redo that? This is not perfect. I didn't feel it. I'd be like, okay, let's do it one more time. So I asked the question and I got an answer, and so on. So in many, now the episode approximately from 40 minutes to 50 minutes. But when the actual time of recording and some of the episode are 1 hour 15 minutes or something like this, but because of a lot of redoing, re-answering, so I'm cutting. This is not for all the guests, just very few of them. I call the people or the guests with the redoing, a lot of redoing, re-answering, the drama queens. It's because I do the editing, they listen to it, they be like, no, please, I want to redo this. Okay, fine, of course, it's good if we redo it, then it's a good storytelling. We redo it, it's the same result, we redo it, we cut it, so it's a lot of drama behind when it comes to the production, what do you call it, post-production, the editing phase. But many of the other guests, I'm so thankful. They were so good and well prepared. I'd be like, oh wow, you're a great guest. They're really good prepared, very creative, there is so good flow, and I'm in love with that guest. Because you see that it's so professional, that they got the questions 1 week before, they prepared, they thought a lot about the answers. And that's why some of the episode got so many views, just because the topic was good, the guest was so well prepared, and many other episodes got not so high number of views. And also it's because not only because the guest was prepared, but also the topic and the quality of the sound. I know I am struggling with this already from the beginning. From the beginning, I didn't have the professional microphone. I had just one mic. I learned a lot from YouTube how to fix the sound, how to edit it. So if you go back to the first 10 episodes, you will see a kind of okay volume or sound quality, because I was recording IRL in real life, face to face with the guest, and everything was fine, sitting in a really good room. But then when it was Corona time, many of the podcasts, I'm following many of the podcasts, so I'm learning from them. So many of the podcasts, they be like, oh, we stop with the podcast because it's COVID-19 and people don't have really the mood to record or the mood to listen. So many of the podcasts were stopped. But for me, it was the opposite. I was thinking, this is my opportunity. I need to use it I need to take it as a huge opportunity. When it was COVID-19, by the way, my podcast is very well known that it's a COVID-19 podcast, because I got many guests and also many listeners during the COVID-19. But actually, I didn't start it because of COVID-19. I started it before the COVID-19, already in the early 2020, in the beginning. Because of COVID-19, I took the opportunity. People were super close to their PC, to their laptops. So I was emailing people and asking them, would you like to record an episode? You don't need to do anything. I will send you the link. You just click on the link, put the microphone, and we go for it. Many people were happy about it. Many people were positive. I'm so thankful for all the people that say yes from the first time they heard my voice message or when they get my email. Thank you so much again for pushing, for trusting, for believing in this podcast. And also for the listeners, thank you so much again for struggling with me, struggling with listening to the podcast with the low sound quality. I know it's hard to listen to it when you're outside because, like, if there's a car passing or there's a people talking, you will just lose the story because the sound is not really high. And this is due to when I am recording in Microsoft Teams. So we use different microphones. I use a microphone. The guest use another microphone. But the thing when I save the video or save the conversation from Teams, the sound quality already very low. And when I do the editing, I need to match the microphone of the guest with my microphone. Then I need to stay at this level. If I take it a little bit up, how to say, amplify it or raise it up, the volume, it's going to be super disturbing. So that's why all the episode, I believe, I don't know, 50 or 60 episodes are recorded via Microsoft Teams, and the sound quality is not the best. I apologize for this, but I believe this shouldn't stop us from getting inspired by people. As you notice in the recent episode, let's say from 99, 98, I am back to Stockholm. I'm recording it ERL using microphones, so the sound quality much more better. Again, thankful for you that you're passionate, and thank you for your passion listening to the podcast, even if the sound quality is not the perfect as how the other podcast is being recorded. Again, I'm counting that if we really want to change, if we really want to create sustainable cities for the future, the sound shouldn't stop us. We should get inspired as much as possible in many different ways as possible. And this podcast was one of the ways that I was inspired by, and also trying to inspire and influence people. So the big thanks is to you that you're listening all the time to the podcast. The numbers were so crazy. When I was recording during COVID-19, I see the numbers. I was not believing in that because the number were just doubling. In March, I think I had 4,000 listeners. It was really crazy. It was the COVID-19 time, exactly when other podcasts were shutting down. My podcast raised up so high. So I was like, okay, this is doing something. This is impacting. So I need to keep it. Back to the process or to the production of the episode. So I do the editing. Editing takes a lot of time because I need to listen first. Remove the parts the annoying parts, which is like this annoying sounds. So I remove them. Then I do the cutting when the guest asks me, oh please can you remove this, oh please can you cut this. And then after the cutting, I do then I try to remove the noise, because in many times the guest don't use a microphone, and Microsoft Teams record from PC microphone, and in many times you can hear noises coming from the fan of the computer, and sometimes their computer their PC get really hot in temperature, so you can hear like because the fan is working, trying to cool down the PC. So, and many other guests, they were using like really headset, better than mine, like gaming headset. So the sound quality was so good. I was like, oh my god, can we record more episode? You have a really cool headset. So it's two different things. There's both good quality, low quality, with the headset, without headset. But again, I'm counting on the story that matter most. And then, of course, to make it sounds good, I need to work hard to make it sound good. So I do the noise reduction, I save it, I try to write some summary about the episode. I don't like to write so much because I believe in that podcast is something that you listen. You don't really read. What you need to read is the title, who's this person, and what is it about. It's not a book or it's not a blog. Podcast is a podcast, so it's something that you will listen to. This is my how to say, my opinion or perception about what is podcast and why I'm not writing so much text. But in the text description, I including the Instagram account, the YouTube channel, because for me it's very important, because I'm not making money. But I would love to see like engagement from people, because this is how I get paid, by the number of people listening, by the number of people sharing the podcast, by the number of comments that I get. So I am really happy and I'm really thankful. Every time if you listen to the podcast, you recommend it to your friend, send it to your friend, share it on Instagram, mention the podcast so I reshare it from you. And also very, very important that you comment, you reflect, because I started this podcast for us to reflect about what is a city, what is a smart city, what is a livable city. I don't know what is a livable city or a smart city. That's why I'm doing the podcast. That's why I'm asking people. I want inspiration. My point is to raise a discussion, for us to reflect as well. So I will be really happy if you comment in Instagram, in LinkedIn. We follow each other. You write me. It's also a way of networking. Nobody knows what can happen in the future. But if you have a good network, if you have a real change makers, then we can together pass all the challenges. So my request to you, every time you listen to the podcast, go to the Instagram account, like, share, mention, just be engaged. I also miss people, especially now during the COVID-19. I'm just being home, not so much happening. So I'm so happy when I see people's engagement and the community of the Urbanistica, talking to each other, the network. So please feel free to share, to talk, to send me emails, to reflect, send me feedback about whatever you think is good for this podcast, is good for our cities, is good for us to get inspired by. So I do the production and upload it, write description, and then when it's up, I am sending the links to my guest, so my guest can promote it on their social media. Some of the guests have so many numbers, so many followers, which is really good. It helps a lot to spread the podcast. Some of the other don't have so many followers. It's also good because this is what I'm believing in. This is what I'm trying to send the message. In some podcasts, they only do the recording with people with high positions, with millions of followers. But what I believe in if we want to create a sustainable city, if we want to make a change, we should include everybody. We should listen to everybody that can inspire us. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's a small kid with 0 follower, or it's a CEO with thousands of followers, and so on. I believe in everybody who wants to make a change, who wants to take us one step further. So this is what I learned from other podcasts, actually, that I shouldn't really focus on the superstars. Because if you're not a CEO of a company, it doesn't mean you're not successful. Of course, if you're a CEO, it means that you did a really good job, that it's a big journey that took you up to be in this important position. But let's say if you're a beginner, if you're a junior, if you're not even working in this field, but contributing, it doesn't mean you're not successful. Everyone is successful in their own way. So this podcast is for everybody, no matter the position, the background, the number of followers, and so on. We count the stories that matter for us, the change, what we want to, and the inspiration, of course. So the podcast getting promoted in the social media. And after that, I upload it to Instagram, to LinkedIn, to YouTube as well. By the way, check the YouTube channel. Really cool. You will like it because there you will see how we record the episode. And in many times I don't cut some parts. I just leave it like this. So you can see how it is in the real life, because I'm recording it and I upload it directly to the YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, you can see how the guests look like in how they move, how they talk, and also some parts that I didn't cut. It's very funny, super funny. You will like it. It's also important that if you have a YouTube channel, please subscribe Urbanistica Podcast YouTube channel. It means a lot. It's helped to spread the message, and also it's a kind of payment for me that I see you subscribing the channel. It means that you like it. It means that the podcast is doing an impact and inspiring people. So this is my reward if you just show, because a podcast is, I cannot reach out to you. I don't know where you are on this beautiful planet, but I'm getting really happy if you reach back and you like, you subscribe, you comment. So this makes me happy, and I'm really thankful if you do it. Basically, this is the process of an Urbanistica podcast episode production, from the voice message, the email, booking the calendar, sending the question, recording, production, editing, publishing, and moving to the next. It was the last 3 months, this was my second job actually, because now I'm working a full-time job from 8 to 5 as an urban planner. I love my job. From 8 to 5, this is on the paper. This is what my boss telling me. You should not work so much from 8 to 5, just this. But for me, I am a morning person. So I wake up at 6 in the morning. I'm at my work 6:30 or 7. I work until, 6 p.m. I really love urban planning. This is something I'm passionate about. I'm in love with. So I have this as a full-time job. Very thankful. I didn't lose my job during the COVID-19. So I'm very lucky by this. After my job, I have this job, Urbanistica Podcast, from 6 p.m. until the midnight. From communicating, sending the questions, booking people, recording, editing. Last 3 months, I literally didn't have anything, or I didn't do anything else than having this full-time job, eating, being at home, and working with Urbanistica Podcast. That's why you see so high numbers of episodes, because I was working hard on it. I'm just 26 years old, Project that I'm working with now in urban planning, they need at least 5 years to be implemented, because the planning process in all the countries, and especially here in Sweden, is so slow. And I will not go in details why, but the things that I'm doing now, I'm not famous or well known. I just worked, soon it's going to be 2 years. 2 years ago, I was studying, I was doing my Erasmus and graduated. Now I'm working. So people don't know who is Mustafa Sherif. But that's why in this podcast, I always introducing myself. Hello, I'm Mustafa Sherif. Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. So people start to recognize my name. Okay, Mustafa Sherif, the guy of the podcast. Cool. And why I did so many episodes is also because I want to, market the podcast. If 5 people share it on their network in 1 week, I have a bigger chance that people listen to the podcast than if just one person share it each week. So that's why I got so many high numbers from 81 countries listening to the podcast. It's because this amount of episode, they were spreading in the different networks from different countries. So I'm really thankful for you to listen, for you that listening, for the guest that sharing in the network. I'm so happy. Believe me, I'm so happy. All this amount of work I'm doing because of passion. I'm passionate about. I'm not getting paid for this. I highlighting it so many times in this episode and other episodes, because people think that I'm making money of this, but no, I don't do that. And it's because I have a full-time job and the contract don't allow me to make other money on my side businesses. That's a complicated story, but that's why I'm telling you, I will be happy if you follow Instagram, if we connect in LinkedIn, if you subscribe the YouTube channel, because this is going to be my reward instead of money. Because my aim is really not the money. If this was money, I will just quit my job and I will find sponsors. I got so many phone calls from companies that are working with city development, but also other companies not working with city development. They want to sponsor this podcast. It's also because of the numbers, the numbers of the country listeners, the topic, the storytelling. But I say no, not really now, because I want to work as a full-time job. I want to change the city by urban planning because this is what I'm in love with, but also this podcast. So again, please be active, engage, write me, comment, share it. Thank you so much again for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. So this was basically how the episode were produced. And by this episode, I want to announce that the first 100 episode is the season number 1 of Urbanistica Podcast. The next episode, you will see I'm taking the best of, which means I'm taking the takeaway messages from the popular episodes and trying to put them together in one topic, like cities for children, smart cities, AI, transportation, and so on. So I hope you will like it. And then during the summer, I will start season number 2. And there is not really a big focus on a specific topic, because I believe that we need to get inspired by different topics related to urban planning and design. So, but now I'm going to do more interviews about the soft values, not the physical urban design, but more about the life in the city, the soul of the city, the people, more about the community. So more the soft values, not the physical, not the material, not how big should be a street, because this we're talking about in the season number 1. So season number 2 is about more the soft values, and I will try to reach out to the government to talk with them, because in the previous season I couldn't. They were super busy because of COVID and other stuff. But now I have the numbers, I have the cred to talk with them, and also to discuss what I learned, or the questions or the issues that we brought up in the season number 1. So season number 2 is going to be interesting. We're going to hear really cool stories. We're going to meet really interesting people, both experts and non-experts when it comes to the city development. This is the magic of Urbanistica Podcast. Everyone is part of this. I am part of this. You, the listener, is the biggest part of the success of this podcast. I have not so many other things to say. I believe I'm so happy, so thankful. Keep up the good work. Keep loving city. And please don't forget to subscribe the YouTube channel, follow on Instagram, and let's connect in LinkedIn.